Well, growing up I loved fiction. I was an avid reader of Frederick Forsyth and Wilbur Smith as a teenager, and I loved those kind of action authors. So when I became a Christian at university, I naturally looked around to find fiction with a spiritual edge to it. And yet in England at that time there didn't seem to be any. And it was strange because I was reading the Bible and Jesus used storytelling and parables to get spiritual truths across. And in England we have a fantastic heritage of C.S. Lewis and John Bunyan using fiction as a medium. But there didn't seem to be anything for me as a young male Christian on my spiritual journey. So I thought that there was a need there, and I fancied having a go, and the fight is the result of that. Well, the story's primarily about a young lad called Sam, who's grown up. He's had a great upbringing. He was brought up on a farm with his parents, but tragically his father is killed in a farming accident, and him and his mum quickly run out of money, and they're turned out of a farm and put in a public housing complex on the edge of London. And Sam's mum really can't cope with the tragedy of what's just happened to her, and she starts drinking very heavily, and so their life starts to spiral very badly. And Sam, as happens to kids of that age, just became very angry at his change of circumstances, and he starts fighting everything and everyone about him. And so life is looking pretty bleak for him, but then a street fight leads him to a boxing club, which is run by the other main character in the book called Jerry. And Jerry's had a tough upbringing as well, but a newfound faith has helped him to get over his past, and he dedicates his life to helping kids like Sam. And so the story is about their relationship, but the interesting thing is that Sam, as well as being a troubled teenager, has also got an incredible fighting talent. And that talent reopens some of the wounds and challenges of Jerry's past life. And so it's an interesting story. It's basically about their journey from there on in. And it's an exciting, fast-moving story, but it's also one which I hope makes readers think. It addresses a lot of the issues which teenagers and young men struggle with in terms of anger and aggression, but also what older men struggle with as well, in Jerry's case, in terms of ambition and pride and perhaps wanting to be seen to be successful in the world's eyes. So it's a great story, and hopefully something which readers will really engage in and really enjoy. Well, first and foremost, I hope it's a book that entertains people. I self-published The Fight in England in 2012, so I've already had quite a bit of feedback from readers telling me they love the book and they stayed up far later than they should have done trying to finish it. So, but it's also a gritty story, it's a tough story, and it deals with situations where difficult things happen in people's life, and sometimes life is tough and it's unfair, and often in young men their reaction to that is anger, and that sometimes manifests itself in aggression or antisocial behaviour. Yet at the heart of that behaviour is often, pain and suffering and insecurity. And I believe we have a loving and a forgiving God, and I believe that He can help us to find peace, instead of that anger which we might feel. So so that's what I'm hoping that people will take away and people will understand a little bit of.